Today I'm going to tell you about a case so tragic and so disturbing that even now people are still struggling to understand what really happened. Because in a single night, 3 generations of one family, a grandmother, a mother, and a newborn baby, lost their lives inside the very place where they should have felt safest. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of true crime and mystery stories, like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss a new case. Okay, let's dive into today's story. On the morning of May 28, 2026, police officers in Modesto, California, rushed to a quiet residential neighborhood after receiving a disturbing emergency call. What they found inside one home would leave even seasoned investigators shaken. 3 generations of the same family had been attacked. A young mother, her own mother, and a baby boy who had only been alive for 2 weeks. But perhaps the most haunting detail of all, a 3-year-old child was found alive inside the home. And the man police would soon arrest wasn't a stranger. According to investigators, he had been living with the victims. This is the heartbreaking story of Silvia Nuñez, Fabiola Gonzalez, and baby Mateo Gonzalez, and the tragedy that destroyed an entire family. Before tragedy struck, the family had every reason to be happy. 23-year-old Fabiola Gonzalez had recently welcomed a baby boy into the world. His name was Mateo. According to family members, Fabiola was a loving mother devoted to her children. Living alongside her was her 54-year-old mother, Silvia Nuñez, who relatives described as a caring grandmother whose kindness touched everyone around her. For Silvia, family meant everything. And for Fabiola, becoming a mother once again brought excitement and hope. No one could have imagined that just 2 weeks after Mateo was born, their lives would come to such a violent end. At around 9:20 that morning, emergency crews were dispatched to a home on Monterey Avenue. In Modesto, something terrible had happened. When officers entered the residence, they discovered 23-year-old Fabiola suffering from multiple stab wounds. Nearby, they found her mother, Silvia. Both women had suffered severe injuries. Sadly, neither survived. But the horror inside the home wasn't over. Police then discovered 2-week-old Mateo, who had also been stabbed. The infant was rushed to a nearby hospital in a desperate attempt to save his life. Doctors fought to keep him alive, but despite their efforts, baby Mateo later died. In a matter of moments, 3 generations of one family had been lost. As investigators searched the house, they made another discovery. A 3-year-old child was still inside. Remarkably, the child was physically unharmed. Authorities quickly removed the youngster from the scene and transported him to a hospital for evaluation before placing him into protective custody. For investigators, finding the child alive was one of the few rays of hope in an otherwise devastating scene. But one question remained. Who could have done something so unimaginable? Police immediately began piecing together what had happened. Evidence pointed toward a 28-year-old man named Joaquin Escoto. Investigators believed he had a relationship with Fabiola and had been living in the home with the family. Authorities quickly launched a manhunt. Nearby schools, including Orville Wright Elementary School, were temporarily placed on lockdown while officers established a perimeter around the neighborhood. Residents watched anxiously as police searched house by house. The suspect had vanished, but not for long. Hours later, officers located Joaquin Escoto hiding inside another residence, not far from the crime scene. He surrendered without incident. Police arrested the 28-year-old and transported him to jail. Investigators announced that there were no outstanding suspects and described the killings as an isolated incident involving members of the same household. As news spread throughout the community, shock quickly turned into grief. People struggled to understand how an entire family could be destroyed in a single morning, and many wondered what could possibly have led to this. By the evening of May 28th, investigators announced that the suspect was 28-year-old Joaquin Escoto. According to police, Escoto had been living inside the home and was believed to be in a relationship with 23-year-old Fabiola Gonzalez-Nunez. Investigators also stated that he was the father of both children who had been inside the house that morning, the 2-week-old baby Mateo and the surviving 3-year-old child. But as detectives worked to understand exactly what had happened, one question continued to haunt everyone involved. Why? As of now, authorities have not publicly announced a motive. Family members themselves admitted they were struggling to understand how someone they knew could allegedly commit such an unimaginable act. Following his arrest, Joaquin Escoto was booked into the Stanislaus County Jail. Prosecutors charged him with 3 counts of murder. Authorities also added special circumstance allegations because multiple victims had been killed, as well as allegations involving the use of a deadly weapon. Additional charges related to child abuse and child endangerment were also reported because a young child survived the attack. Escoto was held without bail while investigators continued building their case. Just days after the killings, dozens of relatives packed a courtroom in Stanislaus County. The pain inside the room was impossible to ignore. Family members sat quietly, still trying to process a tragedy that had wiped out 3 generations of their family in a single morning. Joaquin Escoto appeared before the judge in custody. Through his attorney, he entered a plea of not guilty. For grieving relatives, however, legal proceedings offered little comfort. Nothing could bring back Silvia. Nothing could bring back Fabiola. And nothing could replace baby Mateo, who had only just begun his life. As news spread across California, tributes began pouring in. Relatives described Maria Silvia Nuñez-Villalobos as a loving grandmother who devoted her life to her family. 23-year-old Fabiola Gonzalez-Nunez was remembered as a caring mother who adored her children. And little Mateo. He had been alive for only 2 weeks. He had barely opened his eyes to the world. His entire life consisted of a few precious days spent surrounded by family. Then suddenly he was gone. Friends and relatives organized fundraisers to help with funeral expenses and counseling services. In one emotional message, family members wrote that generations of love, memories, and dreams had been taken away in a single moment. Amid all the heartbreak, there was one small miracle. The 3-year-old child, found inside the home, survived. Authorities initially placed the child into protective care. Later, family members confirmed that the child has been reunited with relatives. Although physically unharmed, the emotional scars left behind by that terrible day may remain for years to come. For loved ones, protecting that child became one of their highest priorities, because while 3 lives had been stolen, 1 innocent life had somehow been spared. Even today, investigators continue to piece together what led to the attack. Family members say they never expected something like this. Those closest to the victims continue searching. But sometimes the hardest question has no easy explanation. It's a question that may haunt this community for years.